Okay, now we come to the part that if you don't want to make this part, you could just make a slide shaft. I can guarantee you though that you're going to have trouble with grit and it hanging up on you, and plus it won't be as smooth as the air bearing. And with that, I just took it was a 2-inch block, and I took 50 thou off just to clean it up all the way around. And then I bored the hole through there. I set it up in the lathe, drilled and bored that hole, and I bored it off center so that I could have my air passages go underneath. So you got to figure out, I mean, if you're doing a bigger hole, you might have to move it this way, or if you're doing a smaller hole, you could go that way, but you want to offset it. And nothing says that you have to stay with sizes that because I did mine 1-inch 250. And what I did was I bored it. It's on center this way, offset that way. I bored it, and I left about 15 to 20 thousandths. And then that's where I figured out, well, I got to get my grooving tool. And what I did was I took did I take an ID threading tool? Nope, I hand ground up a grooving tool, and let me see if I can find it. I can find one that's like it. Oh, right here. So it's like this basically, and all it is a piece of steel, and I drilled a hole through it. I used an old broken end mill or something, and I threaded a hole, tapped a hole in the end of it, so I could just put that old broken end mill in there, and then tighten it down, and then went over there and I ground it to a full radius. And then you'll come in on one side, groove it. Okay, I just looked back and noticed my camera stopped, so I'm not sure if I got this on video or not, but this is the grooving. This is similar to the grooving tool that I use. All it is a piece of steel. I drilled and reamed a hole through it for a small end mill, broken end mill. Drilled and tapped a hole in the end, and then I took an old broken end mill, stuck in it, ground it on full radius on the end of it, of that. And yet when you grind that full radius too, you have to grind it so that it has a you have to hand grind it so that it has a taper back so it'll cut. And then I went ahead, took my block, went in the distance that I wanted to go. Let's just see how far in I went. Well, it'll be the same as this hole right here. One inch. I went 1 inch in, put the groove in the inside, 1 inch over, put the groove in. When you flip the block around, you want to dial it in and make sure that it's okay. So now you have the block with the grooves, and I made them about 50. The grooves about 50 thou deep, you got the block with the grooves. And the reason I put the grooves in, left a 15 thou undersize, is that way you wouldn't have to try to deburr those grooves. You know, I mean, because they're going to raise a little burr in there. You don't want that. So now I clamp it in, and you lightly clamp it, and I mean lightly. Even with the stainless here, I wanted to get less than 2/10 taper. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to do. So I snuck up on it. I put it in, I dialed in the outer edge. I got it in on a 4-jaw, dialed in the outer edge, moved in as far as I could with the indicator, dialed in again to make sure that the block is not going like this. Okay. So then I came in and touched with my boring bar, and I had a solid carbide, boring bar that I made, a handmade one. And what I did was I took an old long shanked carbide, or did I? Nope. I take that back. It was actually a chunk of steel, and I think it was like 3/4 inch in diameter. I cemented, I silver soldered a piece of carbide on the end of it and sharpened it. And anyway, I came in here and I touched, and I bored it. Then I took a couple thou, bored it. Took a couple thoughts. Anyway, I took a lot of cuts, and at the final cut in there, I must have went back and forth 10 times before I was happy with it. So then I went ahead and drilled these holes, and lo and behold, I should have done that before I bored this. So if you're doing this, go ahead and put your air passages in before you finish bore it. I should have, and I didn't, because now you got to deburr the hole that you just punched through, and I made that mistake, and I had a heck of a time. I didn't want to put a groove in there or anything, and I had a hard time getting that little burr off in there. But anyway, you're drilling a hole. You're going to drill a hole that goes all the way through. And what I did was I went halfway, and it's on the center line. It's on the center line, same as the bore. So I went in halfway, and went in halfway so they intersected. Then I went in 1 inch and drilled until I intersected the bore. Over here, until it intersected the bore. Then I went on this side, and I actually drilled a bigger hole here so that I could put a fitting on it. Because these holes are only, yeah, they were, I think, 3/32, 9. So anyway, once you drill those and then you plug these, now you're done with it. Then I wanted to figure out a way of mounting this that I could take it on and off. And what I did was I made these little basically a little horseshoe to fit over top. And I poked some small holes in there and put these horseshoes on to tighten her down. And that was it for that.